Well, Will Wright, welcome to the Wholesome Way podcast, man. It's so good to have you on. I've been thinking about this day for a long time, so yeah, it's great to have you on, man.
Yeah, Alex, absolutely, man. I'm honored to be here and love the work you're doing so far. So very excited to, have a good discussion with you today.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, just for context for all our listeners out there, Will and I were work buddies in my previous company that I was working for. Will was my onboarding buddy. I would consider Will my mentor in work, but also in life as well, because you're such an inspiration and idol in so many ways in life. So it's a real pleasure for me to be able to interview you about your life and around the topic of mental, physical, and spiritual resilience. I'm surprised that you're not American of the Year yet. When's that happening?
Still working on it. Still working on it.
Got your nominations?
Yeah, just drape me in an American flag, and we'll call it. We'll see how the podcast goes first, right? Still got some more.
Yeah, this will be the test run.
Yeah.
No, honestly, Will, yeah, thank you so much for joining. Let's kick it off.
Thank you for the comments, man. I loved working with you, and I miss you a great deal. The whole team does, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, likewise. But I'm glad we have the internet, even though we're across the pond.
That's right.
We have the internet. We can always call. We can always WhatsApp, and yeah, looking forward to doing that in the future as well and connecting.
Absolutely.
Cool. Alrighty. So your transformation from college into a fitness-driven lifestyle, back in college, began with a powerful moment, your dad's health scare. How did that early realization shape your relationship with physical, mental, and spiritual well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you for that. So growing up, I already had like a core that really included a love of sports, and I started to get really into bodybuilding and the fitness lifestyle in high school due to the encouragement of actually an old coach I had that gave me a rusty old bench press that was destined for the dumpster. Like I was, an overweight kid, child of the 80s and raised on a fast food lifestyle. So just sharing that like as kind of background info. So it wasn't like entirely a foreign concept to me, but specific to the question related to my dad. So probably like a lot of guys, my dad was the embodiment of strength for me as a little boy, physically, mentally, and spiritually. He played football and was captain of the Corps Cadets in high school, and he had like just Popeye forearms. I can recall him. I remember going on a camp out. That was like another big part of my upbringing was scouting and spending a lot of time outdoors. But I remember going on a camp out and watching like 4 grown men try to get, I don't even remember why, but there was this big rock in our campsite and they were trying to move it, I think for a fire ring or something. And 4 men could not pick this thing up. And my dad came over and observed the situation, and he actually, he came over there and just lifted up this massive rock all by himself and moved it. So like, that's what I mean when I'm talking about my dad and thinking about him, was just that like physical embodiment of strength. And on the spiritual side, I also remember, a lot of this again for me goes back to like outdoor stuff and my time in scouting. But I can remember, camping out one night and a big thunderstorm came through, and I was staying in a tent separately from my father. I don't remember I think I was alone. I would have been paired up with another, maybe another young kid, but we were, sleeping in our sleeping bags, and this thunderstorm came rolling through. And as a kid, that's scary. And I remember like really getting freaked out by that, because you could hear the thunder and the lightning crashing all around and branches and things falling. And it really scared me a lot. So I remember running to him in the middle of the night and finding his tent and crawling in there with him. And I found him just, calm, cool, and collected. He was laying there. Actually, he was awake, but he was reading the Bible by flashlight in his tent in the middle of the night during that storm. And, that's a vivid memory that, that I carry of my father when I was a young little guy. So his surgery and near-death experience really shook me, thinking of those things. It really caused me to earnestly consider my own mortality for the first time, which in turn caused me to change my daily habits, primarily related to nutrition and exercise at the time. I would say, very drastically. It also caused me to start thinking more deeply about my eternal life with God. Although I was raised in a church, my wandering heart really took over in college, and I had drifted away from my faith a bit. So at that time, I was, like 17, 18 years old. And, again, it was a pivotal moment in my life. So overall, my dad's health scare was really a key piece in my journey of physical, mental, and spiritual transformation.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really, I think, for a lot of us, our parents are our idols, our superheroes, and it sounds like your father was a real embodiment of that, and really set you on your path at the moment. So yeah,
I'm grateful to say he's still here. He actually just left my house. He was here visiting his granddaughter this weekend, so he's still with us.
Oh, fantastic! That's good to hear. And on the fitness driven lifestyle of things, obviously you had those health scare moments. What propelled you into not only improving yourself but also wanting to help others?
Well, it's something when you experience it, it's just, like when I think back to my, obviously my dad's health scare and just like my journey from there on, I mean, I was very overweight when I started college. You've only known me since we worked together, but I'm roughly 180-ish pounds right now, about 6 foot tall. But at that time, I was a heavyweight wrestler before. And when I entered college, I was 50 to 60 pounds heavier. So when you go through something like that, like, a really emotional and physical and spiritual awakening, so to speak, like, at least for me, I mean, I can't help but want to share that knowledge with others to help. I know there's just so much going on in the world, especially, related to obesity specifically. And it's heartbreaking, so that stuff runs in my family. And, knowing like how close my dad got to that and how I've seen it impact others in my family. We have a health history that includes diabetes and heart disease and a lot of early deaths from people that really didn't take care of themselves. And, the stats are out there if you want to look them up. I mean, if you look at the World Health Organization, adult obesity has more than doubled since 1990. And, a couple of years ago, like they think it was 2.5 billion adults 18 years and older were overweight. And of those, almost 1 billion were living with obesity. And it's, it's just heartbreaking to see when people go through something like that. And, I've just seen too many people, die way too young, including like my dad's brother, my dear Uncle Durwood. He passed away, and he was just one of the kindest, most just lovely human beings ever. Spent his whole life serving and giving to others. And, sadly, he lost his life, I think he was in his 50s and, died as a result of being, very overweight and diabetes and some health complications. I think sleep apnea was eventually what got him. So, for me walking through that, like my journey was really like, and I was just not in a good place. I mean, I was, when I was in college, like as that was going on, like I said, I was a bigger guy. I was trying to find myself like a lot of people do in college, and, just drinking too much, like eating what in like everything was in excess. And I just didn't really have like limits or boundaries, and, wasn't doing a good job of taking care of myself. And I found, once that shift occurred and I was able to like start setting and achieving goals, like specifically like related to fitness, I just found like the confidence I gained from that just translated over into all areas of life for me. Like my energy levels improved. I started sleeping better. I started feeling better, getting more confidence in my relationships, and, my grades improved. Like I stepped into multiple leadership roles, and all of that, like just synergy that came just as a result of those small, like daily decisions to, change those habits and start moving in this direction instead of this direction, profoundly impacted my life in a positive way. So, again, like for me, it's just about giving back and helping others that, are in a similar spot, whether it's, issues with their own family history or issues, lacking in, confidence, or, dealing with depression and that stuff. Like it's a big, heavy topic to get into. So I'm obviously very passionate about it and could talk about this all day long. So hopefully that helps kind of answer the question.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Obviously, you mentioned, you saw a lot of people that were suffering from, obesity and bad health habits. And I think you're definitely one of the people in my circle that I know of that has gone to the other extreme, like from that to an ultra runner and 100-miler. You're a fitness coach. You're a Spartan coach as well. Was that right?
Yeah.
Like, how you've obviously tried a lot of things, and you've gone to the other extreme, which is, by the way, so inspirational, and that's why you're one of my people that I look up to in my fitness and my just general zest for life. So, how would you say that has allowed you to come to realizing your purpose in life? Because I think part of my podcast is trying to make the connection between health and well-being and finding your path through life, your purpose. I think there's a really strong correlation along the way. Would you agree with that? Do you think you found your purpose along that way? Was it early on, or is it evolving?
I think it's deeper than just the physical. We've touched on the physical realm a bit here, but there's themes in everything I've kind of already talked about here, as far as like what I observed from my dad and his physical and mental and spiritual strength, and the guidance and the values that he instilled into me, and then me kind of finding, like something in my core through that experience of, like connecting with and helping others to change their lives. Like I don't work in that industry per se anymore, but those commonalities exist all throughout, like if you just talk about my career or just purpose in life in general, of wanting to, I love connecting with people. I love hearing their stories. I love like helping to create positive change for them and helping, them to, solving problems, all these things for me. Like it's, and that to me is a, the obesity piece specifically, just because of my family history, like that is a really tough thing for someone to deal with. So, I think your personal experience of walking through something like that, it better equips you to help others, in that same way. So I think, my buddy John always used to refer to it. We kind of circle back on some of these same topics, and like he called it like my tuning fork, and it's that thing that just kind of resonates at your core and your being, and when it happens, when you feel like, when you are living in the will of God and you feel like full alignment, like across all of those different realms, like you feel like it's like it lights me up. And I've tried other things in my life that weren't as nearly as impactful, but at the end of the day, like when I was working professionally as a personal trainer and fitness consultant and Spartan coach and all those things, like, it's a hard lifestyle. You're hustling and you're grinding and you're moving all the time, but connecting with people and hearing their stories and truly changing lives and saving lives, and again, I still do that today. Those are the things I love about my current job. And I hear success stories from our customers of using our products to help save children and prevent crime and save lives. Like it's the same thing, and that's always lit me up. So and I remember vividly, when I was still training professionally, people would text me their stories, and just like one of them was an older gentleman. I remember training he and his wife for a long time, and he was at the beach and just took a picture from the beach and like texted me on like July 4th. It was like, hey, happy 4th of July. I'm at the beach, with my shirt off for the first time in like 40 years. And I've got you to thank for that. And my family has me in their life. He's a grandfather. He's got, several children, but just sharing those words with me of just like, what a blessing you are. And I'm so grateful to know you. And I can't thank you enough for helping me to get where I am now, to still be physically active and capable of picking up my grandkids and taking my shirt off at the beach. Like that stuff, man, like that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's amazing. To think that you're still receiving, that praise from, people that are grateful for you, like even after so many years yeah, that's fantastic. That's the dream.
Yeah.
So in obviously in the fast-paced, tech world that you're in right now at Magnet, and you obviously have a lot of frequent travel, like long hours. I was reading in your blog that you would always plan ahead with improvised workouts and health routines in hotel rooms and airports. One thing that came to mind was I had to laugh at just how amazing you are at doing that. Was the portable pull-up bar that you took
Yeah.
along?
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated? For someone who may want to get into the fitness world, they're finding what they enjoy, and they want to be more healthy with their lifestyle. How do you stay motivated and grounded in environments that push against well-being, particularly when you're on the road, with work coming up against you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And my first thought on that is really like motivation isn't important. That's a fleeting thing. Like you might be motivated to go out for a run tomorrow, but whatever it is that sparked that initial bit, like that's going to change. So motivation isn't it, man. Discipline is what's important. And when when you know who you are and when you know who you're created to be, and you have like, I mean, I had my personal mission statement. Like, if you don't have that, like take the time to map that out. Take some time to, talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones, talk to your, spouse, your girlfriend, whoever it is, and, have them help you with that. And once you've really like nailed that, it's pretty easy. Like I get up and I would read my personal mission statement. I would recite that out loud to myself every day. And that, it didn't really matter where I was, because those things that are like part of my being, and when I'm moving towards my purpose, like those other things are just obstacles. If it's if it's important, you'll find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. And I've just always kind of lived that way, or I would say always, not when I was younger, but so it took some time to get there and really find my purpose, so to speak. But Simon Sinek, if you're familiar with him, I love watching his TED Talks, and he's a real, I know I just bashed the word motivation, but he's one, if you need some motivation and inspiration, like someone that has a lot of wisdom and has shared a lot of great things with the world. But he's fond of saying, when you know your why, you can live anyhow. And I feel the exact same way. So that, like in moments when I'm like in a different airport, a different place in a different country, like big deal. Like there's not a gym nearby, so what? Or I'm stuck, I got a layover or a long flight or something. Big deal. Like you stay true to yourself, and again, keeping my eyes on the long-term goals and my overall mission in life. Like those are the things that keep me lit up and keep me motivated in environments like that, where they weren't really conducive to growth, so to speak. You'll find a way if it's important.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's so powerful. I think I've recently been obviously exploring my identity and my purpose in life, especially after leaving work, and I think why your whys have really resonated with me recently. And even I think we have a lot of thoughts about what our whys are, and just circling around our head, but I think maybe you can relate to this, like actually writing it down and sticking it up somewhere. Like, is that something that you did in the early days, when you were going through your whys, and
yeah,
or was it sort of like more around moments that happened and just really just ingrained in you?
Yeah, a combination, but I definitely did. I took the time like to sit and map that out. It's been some time now, and I don't, I'm married now with a child, and I still like there's certain things that like I don't need it. I know it. It's etched in my brain. I went through a particularly challenging season about 12 years ago, and that was for me like a really like defining period of self-discovery, where I took a lot of time to just kind of step away. Like there was just a lot of change going on in my life, and I took some time to just slow down and reflect. And spend a lot of time in prayer and a lot of time like talking to friends and family and gathering feedback. And I journal a ton. I've been journaling for God like 25 years now, so I could map out and tell you things I was thinking and doing, and simple things. Sometimes it was just like I don't write a ton, but I would map out like for every week, just kind of like, hey, what's some simple things was like here's my 3 highlights from this week. Here's 3 lessons that I learned, and here's 3 things I'm looking forward to. And I was just always learning and growing and trying to push myself. And I still do that now. Like I don't practice that particular exercise, but for me in doing that, I was able to kind of look back over my reflections over the years and take that and then incorporate some feedback I received like during that challenging season, and really use that to craft my personal mission statement. And that, yes, I mean, I did daily. I would get up and start every day. Like for me, like time in the Word of God is how I start, and then time with extras. But maybe it was that, quiet time, time in the Word, time of just repeating my personal mission statement to myself and just getting pumped up for the day. And then, I always start the day with exercise. So that's, a little more challenging with a toddler at home, but I'm making it work. And like I said earlier, if it's important, you'll find a way. And for me, that's important. So I just get up earlier when my little one is still sleeping, and I can, she's not awake at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. So I can get up and get out the door before anyone in my house is awake and take care of the things that are important to me, that then enable me to be, more focused and more attentive as a husband, as a father, as an employee, and all the other things I do in my life. So if you haven't taken the time to do that, man, I would definitely, I'll pull that up after this and look to see. I had some like good challenging questions that I was working with a fellow, or I knew him through a friend. We were introduced, a guy named Andrew Devlin, and he's just a amazing human being. He was actually it was, at the time, I think he still does some of this, but he's got a beautiful, amazing family, and he was a life coach, and he was kind of helping me get unstuck in that period. So he kind of gifted me with that of just like, hey man, here's some things to think about, and here's some questions to ask yourself. And he kind of helped me, craft that. And like I said, it was probably, 11, 12 years ago now, and I still remember that. And I think back on that, and I still, I've done nothing but just move forward and grow ever since then.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, the point on the life coach thing is definitely a big one. I think if you want to achieve anything in life, wherever you want to go, I think everyone needs a coach. That's why all the you probably know this, all the professional athletes, the Olympians, they all have coaches their whole careers, because no one did it by themselves, right?
Yep. That's it, man. 100%. And that's like investing in yourself is always a wise decision. So people that push back on that, like, I don't need personal training. I don't need a life coach. These are whatever. That's a waste of money or time. I don't have that. Like, no, you're absolutely wrong. And just what you just said right there, like world champion athletes, the best business leaders in the world, all of these people have someone else speaking wisdom into their life and helping coach them along the way. So, taking the time to invest in yourself is, like I said, always a very wise investment. And, worked out for me. I don't currently do that, but I have at various points in my life. And I still have, definitely a group of men that I would say are, have been mentors for me, and my father still being one of those. But I have a solid like core group of godly men that I let speak wisdom into my life, and that I seek, coaching and counsel and things when I am in those periods. And we all do that for each other. We're all called to do that, really, to lift each other up and encourage each other. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens, the countenance of his friend. And I've, tried my best to live that out. So
amazing. Incredible. And on the topic of, mental resilience and balance across your life, how does your faith, the spiritual side of things, play into it?
Yeah. Well, that really is like the essence of my being. So, that core, my faith really gives continuity across all the different roles I have, whether it's an ultra runner or a husband, a father, a magnet forensics senior manager, all of those things. I'm not a different person in any of those. Like, how I live that out might be a bit different in each role. Like wiping poop from my daughter's bottom as a way of showing patience to her versus showing patience to my customers and teammates and things. But no matter what, like for me, the purpose is to honor God and glorify him. No matter if no one else notices and gives praise, God knows. And, what is the chief end of man? For me, that's to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So that really dictates everything else I do and how I do it. So, there's the book of Colossians, one of my favorite verses there, Colossians chapter 3, I believe, verse 17. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So, like I said, for me, that's whether I'm, doing any of those things. I'm not always like perfect at it. No one is. But when I'm in the right place, like mentally, and keeping focused and grounded there, like verses like that and thinking like that and taking time to pray and think about my purpose really guides how I make decisions in all of those different areas of life.
Amazing. So still talking about, you balancing your multiple roles, as an ultra runner, a tech professional, husband, and a father. American of the Year. I'm putting you down.
Yeah.
Over time, from being a young man into, growing into a father, a husband, how have you maintained harmony between all of those identities and staying core to your values? And I'll just put this into the context of one of your runs, which I was reading up on your blog, the Devil Dog 100K in Virginia.
Oh boy. And, yeah.
What was it? 14 hours and 21 minutes? Is that when you completed?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna do one day, and so I'll be coming to you for advice.
I can't wait, man. We can run one together.
Yeah, definitely. But I wanted to touch on, around this context of this question. You mentioned during the race, you came up a hill and you thought, why am I here? What do I have to prove? I think your 40th birthday was approaching, and you thought to yourself, am I just trying to prove, my youth, evolving into a man and a husband and a father? So how has, I guess, your values helped you sort of navigate that change over time, in all the events that you're doing and maintaining harmony in your identity?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. I have not read that one in a while, but yeah, I remember vividly being there and, having that through any ultra races. For anyone else that listens, you want to go run, 100 miles, you'll definitely find something about yourself, and you'll experience every high and low possible. It's a complete, like, physical and mental and spiritual journey. So there's a lot of time to think and process things, and really, those are things that help me to find myself when you strip away all of that and break yourself down to nothing. And that's probably part of the reason I still do them. Like I love the challenge. I love just stepping out of my comfort zone, and those are things that help me to grow. I'm not a person that likes to sit still, as you obviously know. You've experienced me in person, and know a lot about me. But overcoming challenges has been a big part of my life, and thinking about the legacy I want to leave, and thinking about how I impact my teammates, how I impact my wife, how I impact my daughter. And those are all things that drive me in those moments. And all of that for me, goes back to the question you asked before, like, what role does my faith play in all of this? And that's it. Like, my faith does give continuity across all roles and all of the races as well. I'm constantly, trying to find ways to, again, like, challenge myself. And part of that just goes like back to just that part of me, of like, that's how I feel like, I'm most fully alive when I'm doing things like that. And
tuning forks vibrating.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm lit up in those moments. And trying to remember his name, the guy from Chariots of Fire. Gosh, Eric, man, I'm totally blanking on it, but you know, God, I wish I could remember the quote right now. I'm totally losing it, but it's that just, you know, when I run, I feel God's pleasure, and that's essentially the core of it is that, like, well, he's fast, so I think that was the first part of it. It's like, well, you know, God made me really fast, and when I run, I feel His pleasure. Like, I'm not super fast, but I have been, you know, created in a way that just gives me the ability to overcome, you know, obstacles and challenges and things. And I'm just really good at being stubborn and gritty and pressing on when most people cannot. And I'm grateful that I have that gifting, and I'm grateful that I have, you know, 2 fully functioning lungs, and I have strong legs, and that's the stuff that's going through my mind when I'm running through. Like, I just had family here visiting over the weekend, and one was an uncle who is 80 years old, and he's, you know, he's got 2 knees that have been replaced, 1 functioning lung, has had some health scares and stuff. And, you know, so I'm just reminded just to be grateful for today, and grateful for, you know, all the opportunities I have, and the fact that I am healthy, that I am able to, you know, to breathe and get up and go out. And I just, you know, fully coming alive and living out my purpose, and realizing there's a lot of people that can't do that. You know, a lot of people, you know, are battling morbid obesity and can barely walk, or a lot of people have health issues and aren't able to. So, you know, doing those things with the time I have is just something that lights me up, brings me a great deal of joy. And I'm, like I said earlier, like, better equipped to then share that with others. And it just makes me better in all areas of life when I'm, like, staying true to that core, or that tuning fork, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Will. I think, yeah, gratitude, right? It's such a, it should be a bigger part of all of our lives. I think a lot of us embrace it, but we often forget about it as well, you know, of being grateful and experiencing that gratitude and feeling it in whatever you're doing, even just standing outside by the mountains, you know, breathing, or running up a hill on 2 legs, you know, in 100K. I mean, not everyone might not want to do that, but
yeah.
but yeah, like, it's,
those, but yeah, you're right, man. And that's, we don't do that enough. It's, I think, whether it's I don't know if it's an American thing or if this is global, but I feel like society in general, like, we do that. Like, I mean, I'm sitting here right now in a room where I'm like, oh, hey, I cut the light switch on and the lights work. I cut the water faucet on and there's fresh hot water coming out. Like, I've got a refrigerator that keeps all my food, you know, cold and fresh and ready for me. Like, every time I put the key in the ignition, the car starts. Like, wow, amazing. What a time to be alive. I am so blessed. And you can, if you think like that and you're just looking out around you, like, that's all a mindset thing, you know? So when you approach the day and just approach, you know, any scenarios with that in mind, like, you know, taking the time just to be grateful for all these little moments of joy and all these little gifts, you know, it's just a much, you know, happier way to be, and a much more freeing way to live, when you aren't just focused on, you know, oh, well, I didn't, whatever thing didn't, well, the job isn't going so well, this relationship didn't work out, I didn't get this thing, like, just getting in a negative headspace and that downward spiral. Like, no, like, pick your head up and look around you at all these beautiful miracles that you're missing each and every day because your head's in the wrong place and you're not focused on the right things.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's something that we definitely shouldn't take for granted, our ability to feel gratitude and share it as well with others. That's a huge part of this I've heard come up so much, is just being able to share that gratitude with others and remind them, because, you know, we're all on this earth for a certain amount of time, and, you know, we gotta share it, we gotta express it.
That's it.
Yeah. So I want to go into the races, the 100Ks, a little bit more, because I'm curious, and particularly around just, you know, mental endurance, and just picking yourself up and being able to do that, and actually be able to actually book the race as well, in the first place. I mean, it's easy for you, but
Yeah.
So endurance events, 100K races, marathons. You've got a goal to do a marathon in every single state in America, right?
Yep.
Where are you at now?
I just booked number 9 for January. I'll be at some meetings in Miami, Florida, and as luck would have it, there is a marathon that same Sunday. So I booked my flights around the board meetings, and then I'm running a marathon and then coming home. So I'm pretty new to that goal. That was I love traveling. I love seeing the world, and it's just a fun way to share that with I try to incorporate my family more in those things. And I'm sure you'll experience the same. Like your goals evolve as as your life grows and you expand your circles, and working a family into it. Like for me, those are things I'm like, I love traveling. I love connecting with people. I love seeing the world, and I can run anywhere. You take just a pair of shoes with you. Doesn't matter where you go. You can set out. And that's like, for me, I'm like, cool. I don't need to go book any touristy things. I can just go. I don't have to run a marathon per se, but that one, for me, it's like, I don't know that I would go to certain parts of the country just because, it's a big country. There's a lot to see, and there's a lot of world to see. Like we were just chatting before we started the day, like about my trip to Madrid coming up. I'm super excited about that. I've been to Iceland. I've been to, Vietnam and all these fun places. So like, there's not enough time in the day, and I don't have that much time off from work to go and see all the things and do all the things that I'd like to do. So kind of narrowing that focus down, at least to, the 50 states is, I heard it first from a podcast I enjoy called the Marathon Training Academy, and it just kind of planted that seed. And I was like, ooh, that sounds really cool. And my colleague, Rachel, that works with me at Magnet, she's going for 50 half marathons and all 50 states. So it's kind of, and she and I, funny, like we actually started our careers on the exact same day, almost 5 years ago now. And we're both, she's coming over more to my side and has started doing some more ultra running too. So it's dangerous, Alex. The more you hang out with me, the more you'll be signing up for a 100-miler before too long, my friend.
Oh, I'm excited about it. I'm not afraid.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember Rachel. Yeah, Rachel. I unfortunately never got to see her or have a run with her like I did with you. But yeah, she's pretty inspiring as well.
Yeah.
So on the topic of endurance events like these marathons and 100Ks, I think these types of races can often mirror, the unpredictability of life. And so is there a moment that you can remember where you had to adapt either in a race or in life, and what lesson it taught you about resilience and presence?
Yeah, great question. I'll go races right now. Those are the first things that come to mind. So the Yeti 100 miler for me was the very first 100 miler I did. I was just before my daughter was born. And I remember like trying to plan around that event was so stressful because my wife was like 8.9 months pregnant, and it was, really like, oh God, can I really do this right now? Is this a wise decision? Like I booked it so far out in advance and didn't know at the time she was going to be pregnant. So that was a challenge leading up to the event, but we got the doctor's report just before, and they said, hey, there's 0% chance this baby's coming right now. Like you're clear. So I took off. It was I wouldn't have done it for anyone listening. Like, wow, this guy is out there. Like it was in the same state. It was driving distance where I could have gotten home if needed. And I actually carried multiple cell phones and charging blocks and everything with me. So I was ready for them to pull me off the course at any minute. If I got a report at any aid station that, things had changed back home, I was ready to hop in my car and bolt. But the big challenging piece that presented itself there was a tropical storm that was moving up the East Coast just before. Actually, it was a hurricane moving up the East because it had turned into a tropical storm by the time it kind of whipped through the south west part of Virginia. So I knew like the weather forecast was not looking good leading up to this event. And I remember driving down and like listening to some podcasts that were like giving some tips about how to run in the rain. And I was like, oh man, hopefully it doesn't come, but we'll just have to see what the day gives us. And sure enough, I ran my fastest 50-miler ever that day because I was aware of the forecast and I was just having fun. Like I loved that course and was just eating up the scores and just breezing through. But anyway, I got through the first 50 miles and sure enough, that storm came and it came hard. Like it whipped through. I don't remember like the how high the winds were, but it was enough for like it was blowing, blowing tree branches and things down. Like the course is it's called the Virginia Creeper Trail in Virginia. It's actually a for mountain biking. But that course, like the actual like running part of the course, that became like streams and rivers and spots. So you weren't really like you're still running, but my feet were like completely sunk in water, and the winds were just whipping up. The temperature, it was in September, so it wasn't like super cold, but parts of that, you kind of started like up at a bit of elevation and came down and then went back up. So the temperature dropped, the near gale force winds, and the weather just blowing through, the torrential downpours, really, it knocked out half the field, so that was a really tough thing to work through. But I'm, proud to say I finished that. That's my fastest 100-miler to date. I pressed on through the night. I pressed on through the storm. And something that allowed me to do that was, I had run a race in Iceland. It was actually Spartan's Ultra World Championship a few years prior to, and that was a 24-hour race, and it was, done on a 6.5-mile like loop course in the mountains just outside of Reykjavik in Iceland. I've forgotten the name of the exact place, but it's in the mountains of Iceland in the dead of winter in the snow, where you have 5 hours of daylight per day. So in my head, I already had that mental victory. I'm like, hey, I ran 24 hours in Iceland. If I can do that, like, I can do hard things. I can do this. I can get through. And started thinking, what story I wanted to tell my daughter, and what I wanted to tell my wife. My daughter wasn't born yet, but I wanted her to know, like, hey, like we can do this. Like we're capable of overcoming, challenges and standing up, and we're strong and we're gritty and all these things. So that's one, at least for me, that just kind of helped me, stay in the moment, be present, and push through, like using my past experience. But in contrast, I also remember, I was, a more recent one was last year. I flew out to the West Coast to run a race called the Zane Grey 50-miler. And, I was so excited for that race. It was on the Highline Trail, I think, out in the mountains of Arizona, near a place called Christopher Creek. And it was, again, I was set up for success that day, or so I thought. And about 6 or 7 miles in, for those, I know you've got your audiences all over, so global. For those in the UK or Australia or elsewhere, that I know America, we're weird, we stick to miles. But for Ks, I was about 10K, or maybe a little more than 10K, maybe about 12K into the race, and I had a lot more to go. But I was coming up, and it was a super, super like technical course with a lot of rocks and a lot of roots. And I was running along with a buddy of mine, and we were cruising too. We were in like, the top, not in the top, we were just behind the top 10. So of about 400 to 500 runners. So we were really having a good day, but it was super foggy and I couldn't see really well. And there was talk of, reading the pre-race material. I remember like reading about mountain lions, and I'm like, I don't really want to get too far from people. So I was trying to keep, this is my buddy Ryan, I was trying to keep him in sight, but there was a narrow like single track course, so you couldn't really run right next to each other through the section. So I was a bit behind him, but he had just gotten off in the fog where I couldn't see, and I was kind of cresting a hill coming up on these rocks, and my foot just rolled over a rock, and I heard snap, snap, and just broke. And I didn't know at the time, but it was like, it launched me off the trail, and I was down, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's happened here, but I was still just full of adrenaline and probably caffeine too. I do enjoy amino energy is my favorite, so adrenaline and caffeine going when you're in that competition mindset. And I got up, and actually I started trying to run again, and it was far too painful. So I only got like 2 steps, and I just immediately like went down like in pain. And I really wasn't quite sure what to do. I again was pretty far from an aid station. I didn't see any people around yet. But then I got up, and I was able to put some weight on it and kind of start walking. And some kind soul ran past, and people started seeing, and someone actually went out and took part of the race and went out and like got me like a tree branch from the woods to use as a crutch. And someone else coming through, they gave me some like ibuprofen. So But that was a really, really hard moment for me that, kind of talking about the mind shift, you know, I went from like going into thinking like this is my day. I'm here to win this thing. Like I'm going to accomplish my goals. And it went from all that to, hey, I'm no longer running this race to win. Like this is just a peaceful walk in the woods. I'm here to just, enjoy God's beauty and see his creation in a different part of the world. And, I can't do the things that I thought he put me here for today. So, and even then, like I ended up crutching down to the next aid station, and somebody, got me in the bed of their pickup truck and drove me on back. I ended up, it was a broken foot. I didn't know it at the time. I was still trying to help. Like I got there, was like, okay, I can't run right now. I'm in far too much pain. And I still was like, well, I'm here. I want to make the most of this day that God has given me. So I'm going to be like present in this place. What I can do, at least, is I can go out and volunteer to help others. So my foot was hurting, but I got up and drove to an aid station to go and volunteer there because I know people need that. Like I've been there in that place running a hard race. And like, when you come through those aid stations and you see, all the cheers and all the high fives and people there that are cooking you food and getting your drinks and filling your water bottles or getting you, gels or salt tabs, whatever it is, like you draw off that energy and that helps, propel you forward. So I wanted to go do that for someone else since it wasn't going to be my day, as far as accomplishing the goals I had set forth for myself. But at one of the aid stations that I went to, the captain of the aid station was, I think, former ski patrol medic. And he took one look at my foot and was like, dude, you need to get to the emergency room. If I had seen you this morning, I would have pulled you off the course immediately. That is probably a Jones fracture. Probably you've broken your fifth metatarsal and you need to go. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't have another option. I was the only I wasn't there with my wife, and my buddy was out running the course. So I drove myself with a broken foot to the emergency room. And sure enough, it was a Jones fracture, and they put me in a cast. And I eventually, I licked my wounds. I got through it, and I got home. But what that taught me really about presence, when I got home, especially, I just remember, it was hard. I remember like calling and talking to, like I FaceTimed my wife like after it happened, and I was crying and emotional, and she texted me some, uplifting scripture and just said all the right things. Of course, she's just such a loving and wonderful and supportive and sweet woman. So, but anyway, like when I got home, like she's used to me getting up and going out for my runs and training for the next race or the next thing. But, having a broken foot for me slowed me down quite a bit and turned out to be just such a blessing in disguise, in that it helped me to be way more present at home, since I wasn't training for other things. And I started my days, instead of getting up and going out for a run like I normally would, I would come back and see my daughter for a bit, but I wasn't able to do that. So I ordered a knee scooter, which my daughter loved. She ended up, you'd see it and be like, oh, dad has scooter. And, or dad has stroller, because we take her out in her stroller to walk around the neighborhood. And I just got to spend so many just wonderful, beautiful moments with her. It was around summertime then. I remember like, walking she's not in school. She's only 2.5 years old now, but we used to call it bus hunting, where we'd get up in the morning and go. She loved seeing the school buses come and pick the kids up. And, we'd judge the days by the number of buses we saw. Like if it was, that was a 5-bus morning, like we're in for a really good day now. Like it was just fun, and experiencing those just moments of joy with her. That's stuff I'm never going to get back. And so being more present in home, being more present in the workplace, and even more present at races. I actually pressed on, like shortly after that Zane Grey 50 miler. I was doing an event called the National Police Week 5K that I lead our team for magnet forensics there. I've done it now for, I think, 4 years, and it's a wonderful event for an incredible cause. It's honoring, our fallen law enforcement heroes, and it's at in Arlington near the Pentagon, which is just a few miles from where I live. But instead of going there to like, hey, I'm going to go set a new PR at this 5K, like I did the thing in my knee stroller.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a cast on, man, and people saw, like, it was so fun. I got in the course, people would see me and be like, oh man, I can't let the guy with the cast on beat me. Like, and there were some guys like towards the back that were, some larger, heavier set guys that were just walking, or guys that were pushing kids in strollers. And it was just, was a beautiful day. My dad came and walked it with me. So getting to share quality time with him and be present and hear the stories of the people on the course, like heartbreaking stuff of losing, you know, their friends and service and law enforcement. And I'll never forget like finishing that race with some guys from I think the Pentagon Police Force and from CBP, Customs and Border Patrol. They were there like pushing their kids in strollers, and I'm there on my knee scooter, and we all were like, we were back there talking it up and high fives and laughing, and you know, we all came in across the finish line together, and it was such a cool thing. So that really, for me, taught me a lot about slowing down and being present, and kind of when to persevere versus when to stop. Like certainly as athletes, you know, there's pain that you can push through, and you know, certainly some people like, you know, at the Yeti would have been easy to say like, oh, you know, this hurts, I'm tired, it's too wet, like whatever, my foot hurts. Your whole body hurts when you're running 100 miles. So to be real, if you haven't done one, it's going to be painful. But again, recognizing the difference between that pain you can push through versus things that you can't, like a broken bone in your foot. You know, sometimes you actually do need to listen to your body, and you know, medical advice that you get from aid stations. Like I'm a huge fan of David Goggins and you know the 40% rule, and I do agree with them. Like most people are not fully tapping into their potential, and you know, when you think you're done, you're really only at 40% of what your body's capable of doing. So I love him, and if you need some motivation, like he's one, go read some of his books, and you'll gonna want to go charge through a brick wall or run a few 100-mile races and all the things. But again, finding, you know, the right moments to apply that. And for me, like being present and recognizing like this is not pain that I can push through today. God has a different plan for me today. I'm going to make the most of this day, and you know, again, look for opportunities to serve and do something more. And then, like I said, when I got home, being fully present for my family and for my coworkers and teammates, and at that, you know, National Police Week 5K, definitely something that taught me a lot and helped me to slow down and really, you know, focus on the things that truly matter.
That's incredible, Will. Thank you so much for sharing that
Yeah.
really moving and intimate story. I think it's so powerful and really inspirational. So many good points in there. You mentioned, you know, a lot about, I think you touched on, you know, trusting your gut, like knowing when to listen to your body, but then also the 40% rule. How would you say you distinguish between those two? What's the breaking point? Is it a thought? Is it what's sort of your way of knowing the difference between those two, and knowing when to trust your gut and listen to your body, and then knowing, okay, I'm only at 40%? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that because they don't have the awareness that you have. They also don't have the life experience yet. But say, you know, someone young, you know, in their 20s, looking to know the boundaries, but know their boundaries, know their limits, but also test them in a healthy way. Yeah.
Well, we talked about this some earlier. The first thing that comes to mind, like you just need more practice on this. You need more experience. Like I wouldn't start like all in, like, okay, I want to run a marathon. I'm going to go run, you know, let me sign up and go do one tomorrow or next month even. Like, okay, I want to run a marathon this year. Cool. Let's lace up your shoes and go run a mile or two this week, see how you feel. And, you know, do it with other people. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Find people that are pursuing the same goals. Find people that have already accomplished those goals and go and experience this with them. Like that's something I did before I was running marathons, was I went and found a club of people called the Baltimore Pacemakers, where I lived at the time. And they call them the Pacemakers, not for heart issues, but because they pace races. And they've been doing that for, you know, 30 or 40 years. And, you know, when I was running with those folks and listening to them and hearing their stories, and, you know, there was things that I didn't know that I was capable of running a marathon. And they'd be like, oh, no, come on, man. Like you just ran 10 miles with us without even hardly thinking about it. You were just because I was so caught up in the moment and talking. Like, granted, I didn't run 10 miles on day one, and I already had a big fitness base, but that could be applied for anyone. Like if you're brand new, if you're just starting out, you know, find a group to do it with that can help you explore those boundaries in a healthy and safe manner, or get a coach. You know, we talked about that earlier. Get a trainer, get someone that can help, that is, you know, professionally trained to do these things, that knows like the difference between pushing yourself, you know, just a bit out of your comfort zone and getting you to that spot where you're growing versus pushing yourself to where you're near cardiac arrest, or you're, again, my broken bone had nothing to do with the physical exertion. It was just an unfortunate thing that happened. I've run, I don't know, 50 to 100 races. It just happened. That was not the day for me. And that rock got me. It had nothing to do with not being prepared. So, Lee Haney is a I think 7 or 8 time Mr. Olympia, and that's the other end of this is stimulate, don't annihilate. And people sometimes go straight to the annihilate spot where they're like, oh, it's whether it's running or whether it's bodybuilding or whatever the thing is, and they just want to go straight to annihilation and just beat their muscles up, bench press every day, all day, pull-ups, all the things, like that's all the CrossFit, all the things, all the time. Like, no. Wrong. That's not it. Like, stimulate yourself to the point. Like, and he again was a Mr. Olympia, so I think he's one we should stop and listen to on that. So those are kind of both ends of the extreme. But again, to answer the question more directly, like, find some like-minded people, get in a group with them, and help them or get them to help you explore those boundaries in a healthy manner. Or if you don't have that group, go get a coach.
Yeah. Incredible. I couldn't agree more. I've just recently got a career life coach, and it's just completely opened my eyes to abundance and possibilities and opportunity that I'd never thought about before, and my limits as well. So I couldn't agree more. Yeah, in any aspect of your life as well, not just running, not just fitness, your career, your hobbies, interests, anything you want to get good at. To have a coach. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, if you've still got time, Will, I wanted to go through the bonus wrap-up questions for the podcast.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Number 1, what's your number 1 guilty pleasure?
A good bourbon old fashioned. Easy one. I know. I so enjoyed Louisville with you and getting to go visit that. Evan Williams Distillery. That was right up my alley because,
Yeah, that was something else. I'll definitely agree. Amazing decor and the experience going through. Yeah, for sure.
I'm a big fan of Buffalo Trace or Knob Creek Smoked Maple are 2 favorites. So Buffalo Trace, we didn't get to go while we were there, but if I can make a good old fashioned with either of those, that's a good day.
Fantastic. What's one book that changed your life?
Man, lots here, but I would say, aside from the Bible, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis is the first that comes to mind. It's a book that was adapted from a series of BBC radio talks that C.S. Lewis did during World War II. And I don't know if you're familiar with him or your audience, but he's the guy, like, the Chronicles of Narnia, like, he wrote all those books and a lot of other books. But most people don't know he was originally an atheist. He was adamantly opposed to Christianity, and he's just an amazing person that taught me a lot just through his reading. So in Mere Christianity, he emphasizes that Christianity is not just a matter of blind faith. It's all supported by logic and reason, and goes into kind of the law of human nature and a sense of right and wrong common to all humans, and all that really points to a moral lawgiver. So he ultimately argues that Christianity offers a path to personal transformation by aligning oneself with God's will and striving for virtue, like we've talked about a lot today. So that book for me, like, my brother and sister-in-law gifted me that, like, right after college. And I was in a place where I was like I said, I was searching and seeking, and had gotten humbled a few times. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was kind of a wreck for a little period after college. And I was, my mom had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I was really upset about that, and trying to find my way in my career and all these different things. And they knew, that I was, as far as my, my spiritual walk, like, I was raised in a church, but at that time I was not, not in a good headspace. So that one book was one that really appealed to my, like, logical and rational side when I was exploring, like, hey, like, what is it? Like, what's the purpose? What's the meaning of life? All this. And, like, is it, let me look at Buddhism. Let me look at this. Let me look at that. And that was one, like, oh, wow. Like, everything lit up when I read that book. And it's one that I've recommended to many folks after. So if you haven't read it, I'd certainly encourage you to as well. C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity is a wonderful read.
Incredible. Thanks for sharing that, Will.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest life lesson you've learned to date?
I would say life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. You know, we talked a lot about mindset today, and that's just something, you know, that's helped me. You know, just I've learned that and been reminded of that, but just something to never forget. Like every day, regardless of what's happening, regardless of your circumstances, you know, life is a gift, and it's meant to be enjoyed. You know, mindset is really everything here. Like I started to tell you some about that kind of tough season for me. You know, in my early 20s, you know, my mom was diagnosed with ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease for those that aren't aware. And, you know, I got laid off from a job at a Fortune 500 company, which is where I thought I would work for a long time. I was going through a breakup. You know, my mom died, my grandfather died, all these things. But you kind of hear that and get into the victim mentality of, oh, boo-hoo, why me? Like, why are all these things happening? And those things were really hard to walk through. I'm not making light of that, but I come back to Paul's letter to the Romans, and what he says in Romans 8:28 is, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. That doesn't say everything is going to work out, you know, everything is good right now. It might not be now. It might be, you know, I know, like my life in God, what the promises are in eternity. And, you know, if it's not good, then he's not done yet. So clinging to the hope that I have in his son, Jesus, and seeing these things work out in my life, you know, those moments again were hard, but keeping, you know, like every life's experience is necessary for the next one. And you got to just keep moving forward and having that mindset and having a kingdom mindset and looking forward to eternity, you know, makes it a lot easier for me to walk through those moments, which were difficult. So again, all those things have shaped me to the person I am and better equipped me to help serve others and help them through similar situations too.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Will. That was amazing. Yeah. Well, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it's been to have you on this podcast episode today, and just learning a bit more about, you know, your life and your experience in the world of fitness and running and being all the different roles and identities that you have so beautifully balanced in your life. And yeah, I really look up to you, Will, and just wanted to say how grateful I am to know you and to have had the opportunity to speak with you today. So thank you, man.
Absolutely, Alex. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Where can people reach out to you and follow you on your journey?
Yeah. Well, my website, runningright.com, is a great spot. And that's running with my last name. So running, WRIGHT.com. You mentioned earlier my goal of completing a marathon in all 50 U.S. states. And I've also got a goal to run the Western States 100 miler someday. So that's like the Super Bowl of nice. Ultra trail running for those that aren't aware. So that my site is just where I share a lot of experiences and insights from my journey. There's also an option there for folks to contact me. But otherwise, Facebook is pretty easy. And Strava, which is basically Facebook for athletes, are the best places to connect with me.
Amazing. Well, yeah, we'll definitely be sharing our Stravas.
Yeah, please do.
And we'll be running together in a marathon.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
Can't wait. Yeah, well, do you have a final message to the listeners today before we wrap up?
Yeah. Wherever you are, be all there. Live to the hilt every situation you believe to be the will of God. That's a favorite quote of mine from Jim Elliot, who was a famous missionary in Ecuador. And I just think it's a great reminder of a lot we've talked about today, to be present. You know, if you think about tomorrow, you'll have nothing but anxiety, or yesterday, you're going to have regret. You know, what we learn and what I've been taught to pray is give us this day our daily bread, because if you collect more than what you need for today, everything rots. So focus on today and trust in God today. And, you know, if you're not present, you can't win. So take your beliefs captives, be fully present. You know, your job is to be the best version of you that glorifies God today. And living fully for God results in joy in your present circumstances, regardless of how pleasant or unpleasant they might be. So hopefully that helps inspire somebody, and go out there and make a difference with the day you've got.
I'm certain it will. Thanks so much for sharing, Will.
Yeah, man.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, Alex, keep up the great work, brother.